It's from Cassie Dillon. I forget who she works for. Fox News, I guess at this point.
Oh,
Um,
I thought it was something else too.
I really can't believe they're teaching this to kids, as we've covered many times on the show, including on our YouTube channel, which you can find at unauthorizedopinions.com. Leads you right to it. We reviewed a book of pronouns pointed towards kids, directed at kids, and this is some more stuff that they're doing. Let's see.
I mean, that was for kids. There was no, I mean, it was a kid's book. It wasn't like kid friendly or like
Yeah.
you can read this to. This was for children, like very clearly. It's pretty despicable.
So this is pretty hard to see. I'll read a bit of each one. Body part. Young children are getting to know their own bodies and are curious about other people's bodies. Not really. I don't recall being curious about other people's bodies, or unless you're a baby. Our bodies are amazing, helping children learn the anatomical names of different body parts, including genitals. How young of children are we talking? Because I have a feeling they're talking about very young, given the images. They say young children. I'm going to say under 12. Fosters their
Yeah, this isn't.
self-esteem, helps them open up to conversations about health and identity. Talk about genitalia when you are naming other body parts, singing a body part song, or while playing with dolls. This is so creepy. Imagine a movie scene where a person is with a child and they're playing with a doll and they get the child to start naming the genitalia of the body part. That's a movie scene about child abuse, about somebody
But
indoctrinating a child into child abuse.
but why would they want to do that? Because we're constantly told that it doesn't matter. It's just whatever you think in your head.
Yeah,
So why
it's
are you even
true.
talking about
Why
it?
do you need to confirm? Why do you need to teach a child about gender when it doesn't exist? I mean, none of this makes sense. Gender assignment. Most of us are assigned a gender and sex.
False.
Exactly, by a medical professional. How so yeah, like like that doesn't even make sense at all.
Wrong.
Nobody says this is your gender and this is your sex at birth. No, they tell you what body parts you have, and therefore you are that gender. Often before we're even born. Oh my god. Throw out ultrasounds, they're useless. This this assignment may or may not correspond to our internal sense of self. Beginning this conversation early gives young children more space to talk about how they feel about the guesses we made about their bodies. So, on one hand, doctors don't know what they're talking about because they're guessing about a child's gender. But on the other hand, take 16 injections because this doctor is a scientist and therefore you have to believe them. Um, guesses we made about their bodies. As soon as your child knows the words boy and girl, they likely have thoughts on gender. No, they don't. They have thoughts about what you tell them. That's why they're a child. Unless it's something that's physically in front of their face, a fork, a spoon, a Nintendo, a TV, a blade of grass. If it's not in front of their
Nintendo. You're
face,
you're showing your age here, and then
there's a Nintendo
Nintendo.
Switch. Okay, I knew
Okay,
exactly
all
what I was
right.
saying, Eric. They don't have gender in front of their face, so how are they going to know to ask about it? They're going to ask like, "What's a boy? What's a girl?" They're going to hear about it, but their thoughts on gender. This isn't a thing that exists naturally. How do I know? Because I was a child. I'm going to Joe Biden mode here.
Yeah.
Because I was a child, and my brother has 10 children, and I was also had friends who were also children. We never had thoughts on gender. You injected these thoughts into their head. Let's see what the
Yeah,
next page is.
absolutely.
We've got gender binary, of course. In many Western cultures, because all other cultures are better than us, except for the fact that, England and Scandinavia have said don't do this to children at this point.
Wait, 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 wait. Hang on,
Yes.
hang on. In the West, so are we going to talk about maybe like the
China
Middle East? Are
or
you
the
going to
Middle
talk about
East.
what they think about your weirdo gender
They're only going to
ideology? Are you
refer to like sections of India or something, is my guess,
okay?
where
Okay.
this sort of thing is tied into religion, the specific religions that they want. Um, there is a pervasive belief that there are only two genders. It's pervasive. The normal, like the way they talk, they're not even smart enough, the people who write these books. And I know that sounds mean, but these are adults, so we can criticize when they're trying to harm children. They're not even smart enough to um write properly about this. They write it from a angle where they're already correct. Like they're not and that's the manipulative and evil
Yeah.
part about it. Is like this is a pervasive belief, as if the regular thought and the regular mantra has always been that there's all these different genders and you can't say otherwise, and nobody has ever believed in two genders. They're saying it's actually a pervasive belief upon the orthodox belief to suggest that there's only a man and a woman. That's the pervasive belief. It's seeping in to all the stuff we've always known to be true, Eric.
Yeah.
That these two genders should correspond nearly with a whole host of expectations about what girls and boys are supposed to do, like, and be. No. Again, no. All you have to do is say no to all this stuff. Just say no. This binary system is harmful to everyone, to those who do not fit into the rigid boxes of binary, which no one is saying, of course. Certainly, but also to people who feel comfortable identifying as a girl or boy, but would like more flexibility in how they express their gender. This is just teaching children to be selfish, and to be self-centered. I would like to be more. Why don't you recognize more about my gender, Eric? Why don't you understand that I'm actually more than just a boy? I'm actually a gender non-conforming, blue-haired two-spirit. Like me.
Yeah.
Learn. Why don't you know more about me?
Gender queer demi femme boy, I think, or something like that.
You
That's like
got
the Tumblr age there. But this reminds me of the abortion issue in a strange way, because they constantly use these minuscule fractions, right? So the bin your baby bunch will
yeah.
constantly say, well, what about sexual assault, to put it nicely, and incest. Of course, those are basically the same thing, because you let me know when you find a consensual incestuous relationship and I will tell you that we have a completely different set of problems. But if you say, okay, well, we will allow you to bin the baby in those particular cases if you will agree not to do it in any other case. But of course they won't do that, because that's not really what it's about. So on the other hand, on this gender stuff, they say, well, they want to talk about intersex, and they want to talk about these weirdo anomalies that, of course, shout out to Anomaly, these weirdo what's the word for it? um deformities or something. They want to talk about these minuscule things that of course prove the rule, right? Those little exceptions are the things that actually prove the rule. And if you were to say, okay, we acknowledge that, but you got to give it up on trying to turn regular kids into this stuff, they wouldn't do it, because it's not actually about that stuff. You see what I'm saying? They take these one little wedge issues and try to blanket the whole thing. And then when you say, okay, but that's how you know all of their arguments are completely disingenuous, right? So if I can agree to that one little thing, if you give them that tiny half inch, they're going to take a mile and say, no, we don't want to do it. We're like we saw in Toronto. Was it only a week or so ago, or was it Toronto, wherever it was in Canada, where they were trying to make them call all the kids
Ottawa.
they, which is just Ottawa. Okay, it's ridiculous. And I think I still I'm feeling, I guess I was feeling pretty black pilled, as the kids say at the beginning of this episode, on the voting side, right? Because I don't believe that these power hungry tyrants are ever going to allow, because look, in America, everybody knows, bro. The majority is not with this nonsense, but these people are not going to allow themselves to just be voted out. I don't see that happening. So that's the black pill side. But on the other side, culturally, I think we can all see it. Obviously, Bud Light kicked the whole thing off. It's starting to turn back, right? And you have kids now. We see the video of the kids who are saying, "Stop showing this to us. We don't want to see it." We have the people protesting outside of the Dodger Stadium, which I don't know if you ever got to the bottom of it. I think I know what happened. Did you figure out what that was all about?
I didn't figure out where the picture was from. He's talking about that there's a picture of barely anybody inside the stadium. That
Yeah.
wasn't the end result. It was like they're not doing well, so they don't have a big crowd. Um, but it was like it wasn't
Well,
empty by any means. Like it wasn't like a huge boycott going on. There's just a ton of protesters outside, and they lost like 14-0 or something.
yeah, well, and shout out to Mark Dice, the original YouTubers, right? Like Mark Dice has been there
Hmm.
since like 2000, like the first day of YouTube, he was there making videos, which is crazy. And so I do trust Mark Dice. Shout out to him. But what he pointed out was that they did the weirdo drag queen stuff like several hours before the game started, so that's why there was nobody in there.
Mm.
And then so nobody was there to actually see this stuff. The news can put it on and say, well, look how pretty this ceremony was. The drag queens were there, and the Dodgers capitulated to our every single whim. But they did it at a point in time when they knew nobody was going to be there, because if the stadium was full and they did it right before the first pitch, it wouldn't have gone well, as I understand it.
Well, the Dodgers are doing that bad. I just checked. So like, but people like to pretend that it was empty and it wasn't. And then another thing I saw, like people saying, "Oh, this was."
But if they really liked it, why would they not do it? Right? Why would they not do it at the seventh inning stretch? Right? Why would they not do it when everybody was there?
I don't
Right? They
know.
did it hours
Because
before it started because they knew it was.
two of their own
We
pitchers
gotta throw
came
the
out against it. So I mean,
yeah.
and then people were saying, "Wow, they lost 14-0. This is God's work." Like, they lost to San Francisco. So if you think San Francisco winning is God's work, then God help you. Patriarchy. This is another page for the audio listeners. Another page from the book. Patriarchy may seem like a big word for little kids, but so is Tyrannosaurus, because teaching children about dinosaurs and the fact that their life is ruined by white men is the same thing. The truth is giving words to oppressive systems of power. This is just communism, Eric. And then empowerment and activism. Young children learn more by watching what you do than from what you say about your beliefs. Patriarchy, cis sexism, transphobia, homophobia, and the gender binary are baked into the culture of the United States. You know, when the founding fathers, when John Adams and
Yo,
and
that's
who else do you
crazy.
want to? Abraham Lincoln. I don't even know, but
Ben Franklin, who of course was never a president, but somehow ended up on the $100
they
bill.
were transphobic, obviously, except they were Whigs, which is
It's baked
pro-trans.
in.
Turn it up, Jordan.